parchment to make the triangles. I will demo making a cone, demo filling it, show you some practice piping, go onto the board and talk about what we're looking for in grades and all of that on there. Then I will demo making a cone again. We'll all make one together and gather our supplies and go from there. Whenever you cut the parchment, we want to always work cutting up full sheets. You don't want to just cut a corner off. It drives me nuts. Never try and cut more than 2 sheets at a time. Fold it in half. Go down to a quarter sheet. Then we're going to fold it into a triangle. When I fold it into a triangle, I don't go corner to corner, but rather fold it so from my side it looks like 2 mountains. From your side it looks sort of like a big W, where these are parallel and equal on them. This is the most important cut. So you really want to take your time, crease it well. I crease it with my finger, I crease it with the knife blade as well. Notice that I'm cutting at the edge of the bench, that way I can keep the blade flat. When you're up here in the middle, you can skate and go wherever you want it, wherever it wants to go. When I cut, I hold it at a low angle so that it's pushing into that crease as well. If you're going straight on, it can again go wherever it wants to. This is how you want to take the parchment home. This will fit in your notebook and stay nice and flat, be well protected. If you try and take full sheets home, they're going to get wrinkled, crushed up, and then they're very difficult to work with later on. Do we have any lefties? 1, 3.
Writing?
Yeah. I'm happy to show you guys how to do the cone left-handed version, but everybody else has to move away. When we do our cones, you have 3 sides of the triangle. The longest side is where the point is going to be. It doesn't really. Tend to think of the point wants to be on that other one, but it's not. It's going to be on the longest side. We keep the broken corner at the top. If we draw a line from that point opposite, that's where the point is actually going to be. You're going to start off holding it in your left hand, that long side there, with your thumb right at the point. Broken corner at the top. You're going to curl it over, and you want to get a point. It doesn't matter where it is. You see how you got it at it? Point, you can then pull it down, and it follows down to your thumb. Pinch it gently. I go underneath, grab both layers, move my thumb off, but I keep it there so that it acts as a pivot point. Curl it over, pinch it gently. Curl it over, pinch it gently. In a perfect world, these 2 tails would line up. Since they did not, I will move them until they line up. You're more than likely going to have an opening after you curl it up. And what you do to close that is I put my thumbs on the inside, my fingers on the outside, and I just go forward and back. It's not twisting it, it's just forward and back. And you should notice pretty quickly that it tightens up. Once you get it tight, you're going to fold those 2 tails inside, crease it off. At this point, it will keep for a little bit. I would not make 20 of them and try and keep them good. They tend to get damaged very easily, they'll open up, and it doesn't really benefit you. But it does, you can set it down, you can take a deep breath and say, oh, I finished one thing. Then, we have our piping gel. A couple notes with the piping gel is this stuff is crazy sticky. If you get it on you, get it off. Otherwise, it's just going to be everywhere before you know it. It will dry out, so you want to keep a lid on it, keep it covered up when you have it around. Because if it dries out and gets that skin on it, when you try to pipe it out, it's going to be in lumps and be very difficult to work with. It doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue, but if it gets too cold, it's hard to work with. And that you'll find out that it gets really thick when it's cold. So if you have a cool air conditioner, you put it right by that, you may find that it's a little difficult to work with, and then you just warm it up. You know, on a day like today, if you set it outside, I'm sure it's going to be warm enough. Other times, people zap it in the microwave, but when they zap it, we're talking like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds. It doesn't take much to loosen it up. So, to fill up our cone, I just hold it like it was an ice cream cone. Less is better than too much. Put a little blob in there. Lid on second side. To close it up, I'm I'm going to flatten it out, and I'm going to keep that seam visible. So that's what I'm looking at. I flatten the cone, and then I fold those two corners away from the side with that seam. Then I'm going to start folding it down, always going away from that seam. If you're going away from it, it tugs this tight. If you roll towards it, it wants to open up. All the way down. A couple things about piping. I recommend learning to do it standing up. You may think, oh, I can sit down and it'll be easier. There aren't too many chairs in kitchens, so that when you actually have to do it, if you only know how to do it sitting down, you're kind of in trouble on there. When I learn to do this, I stand up nice and straight, have my feet shoulder length apart on there. You want to have your work surface as a comfortable height, and it's the kind of height you would use for chopping. So if you normally have raised your cutting board, some of you guys that are a little taller, you may want to raise up the surface that you're working on. Don't go crazy. You don't want your elbows out like that. You just want a comfortable height to work on. If you just have your dorm room desk, which is a little bit low, stack up a couple Pro Chef books and you'll get it up to a comfortable height. Like I say, I keep both feet on the ground. I like to lean into the bench because it's usually fairly solid and gives me a little support on there. I keep my arms loose but right against my body. That gives them a little support. I hold the piping bag between my first two fingers, and my thumb right at the back, like it was a big syringe. And I want to have it all the way at the back so that any pressure is going towards that tip. If you're holding it in the middle, you'll find that you're kind of at cross purposes and that you're having to fight. You're having some back pressure that's harder to control than the other. You want to get your offhand involved somehow, and this is not involved. I like to just touch it with my fingertips. You can grab your hand. I had one guy did something like that. It looked really awkward, but it worked for them on there. So that when you're piping, you give as much support as possible. I talk about this stuff because I think in general, after a nice, what did you have? Somebody had 15 hours sleep. Wasn't that somebody in here? Yeah. That it was somebody else I came across. That then it's easy to do this stuff. But the reality is, you're doing this at the end of a 15-hour shift, and it's the 7th shift in a row. You're tired. The more you're relying on your muscles, if you're working like this, you're just going to be shaking all over the place. So you want to stand on your bones and have as much. To open it, we're going to cut it with a knife. When you cut it more like a guillotine, straight down and chop. The sawing is a problem because if we don't get a clean cut here, and you have a little fiber, what you're going to find is when you pipe, it catches on that fiber and doesn't come out straight. When you cut it smaller than you think you need. If it's too small, you can always cut it again. If it's too big, you got to go back here. Closing it up with that. When we pipe, we're going to start on the surface, squeeze a little bit to stick it in place, then we come up in the air a good half, 3/4 of an inch. Move along. When we're ready to stop, we're going to go back down to the surface and touch it, and we can break away. You want to avoid the big dog bones where you're getting big lumps at the end. If you're not going back down to the surface to stop, you get that big tail on there. If you squeeze too hard, curls around. If you move too fast, you tend to get that tearing on with it. If you don't come up off the surface, you tend to get little herky-jerky lines with every breath and every shake of your body. And it may seem silly to do something as simple as just some vertical and horizontal lines, but it's probably worth your while, and it's definitely worth practicing before you go on your board. And being up in the air is going to allow us to get beautiful, gentle curves. You can see I don't go necessarily very fast. Not necessarily going very fast. You can almost, maybe air bubbles, little lumps in there. I sometimes think of it as like if you had a rope and you were laying a rope down on the ground.
My hair itches.
Your hair itches. We got scissors, we can take it off.
Oh no.
You sure?
I'm sure.
We got 3 pairs, we can do it in no time.
Okay.
I'm sure someone has a razor.
Do you help? Again, going back to the surface to stop. Couple notes. If you do not have a baker friend, you may want to find one. They can be somewhat useful when they finally stop laughing. I should also point out that Learning Strategies helps with this. So if on Monday morning you're really struggling, you can go up there and they can give you some advice and some help on that. With other folks doing this, they may show you a different way to make the cone. They may show you a different way to hold it, fold it, fill it, pipe it. If that works better for you, God bless, do it. They may show you different designs, different styles on that. Again, if that works for you, that's fine. With our assignment, what we're going to be doing is a border around the outside. We're going to fill in 12 of these little boxes and writing happy birthday here. I would recommend that over this weekend you pick the designs you want and stick with them until you can do them really, really well. If halfway through next week you're feeling comfortable, you feel like you've got them down, you're consistent with them, then try another one. But if you do 12 designs each time and they're all different, you're just going to have 12 crappy designs, and you can probably do that right now. So I think you're better off staying with them. For the border, and again, this is by no means exhaustive on what I'm going to show you. There's lots of stuff. I'm going to show you a few simple ones. There's a few things up on Moodle, I think, maybe. I can't remember if I put them up or not. You'll find stuff online all over the place. You'll find books in the library and so forth. A couple of things here. One that we want to look at with this, with the loop we're looking for on this one is sort of a teardrop, or I think of it like a balloon in shape. You want to be consistent with that. We want our spacing consistent. We're fairly good with that. We also want to keep them somewhat far apart. You can see how these are about 2 inches apart, and I like to do that because what happens visually is you can look at that one. You have to make a very distinct shift with your eyes to look at the next one to try and compare it. Then you have to shift back and try and remember what the other one was. If you start to put them right next to each other, it's really easy to see if there's variations on them, so that you make your life a little bit more difficult. We want to have a gentle curve between them and a consistent curve. If we look at it and we think of this as a balloon, the top of the balloon and the knot, if we drew a line, it should go to the center of our board, and they should all go to the center of our board. This one I kind of like because if you do this, you get a handle on it, you get better, we can build on it. So we could, if we did this a few days and we felt pretty good about it, we could add the reverse. We could add extra loops. Looking at these things now, we want to have that reverse curve there. Again, it needs to be curved. We don't want it straight. You want it open in the middle there, that little kind of diamond pattern on there. Again, that loop, now we have 4 points to line up. Top of the balloon, not top of the balloon. We got a little bit off, a little better there, a little better there, a little off over here. Again, with it. Seeing that there. One thing I should also point out is I went halfway around the board without stopping. I would say it's a little bit challenging to go further. And in general, I find 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock the easiest part of the cake to do. So feel free to do that and then readjust to make your life easy with that. Another little border that I used to do that I kind of like, I call it a wave. It looks sort of like a J or a fish hook on its side. And the nice thing is you can break it down and do these individually if you want. You find that easier. Decorated with some other stuff. If you have the opportunity to come across a pizza box this weekend, pizza boxes make pretty good transportation boxes. To keep these, get these here. Four little boxes. Again, we're looking to have 12. You're welcome to fill them all, but I want to have 12 done to hand in each day. And I will show you a few designs, and again, there's lots of them. And this is what I did today in the chocolate. Things that I would talk about with these is, generally speaking, I say do the first one very narrow and very high. Use the full height of the box. You don't have a lot of room, so you want to make as much use as you can. The next one just barely wider and almost as high. Slowly work your way down. I think these tend to look a little nicer than if you start out short and fat and just have no place to go in there, and we end up with a big empty spot. Those I did with the rounded corners at the top, but you can also square them off. Loops. Things like that. Again, there's so many different designs. It's sort of hard to pick a good spot, an end. For our writing, we're going to try and center it on the cake, so equal amount of letters on this side, or half the word there as the other side, balance right down the middle on there. If you know how to write cursive, I would encourage you to write cursive. I think it looks a little nicer. The other thing is you can cheat. It's not like in school where somebody was going to smack you with a ruler if you made up your own letters. Here we can make them up and we can mix and match on there. I like cursive for two reasons. One, it's continuous. Stopping and starting that you're going to find is a bit challenging, and two, I just think it looks a little classier. You know, if you think about taking your significant other out for their birthday, you're dropping 2 or 3 bills. Cake comes out, that's big block letters. Looks like you got to, you know, like you're thinking it's come from Stop and Shop, as opposed to nice, elegant script on there. So,
Gross.
I don't know what to say. So. I do the first letters very large and exaggerated and a little bit more decorative. People talk about having bad handwriting, but you guys have already seen my handwriting for a couple days and know that it's no great shakes. So, big H. We did center it pretty well. But if you look at, besides we take off that tail at the end of the first letter, it's just kind of pretty ordinary. Things to note that I would say, though, is that they're all horizontal. They kept the line even. I kept the size even. They didn't start small and get big or start big and get small with it. I like to go directly over the line, so like in the P, go down and go right on top of it if possible. I think when it opens up, it doesn't look as nice as well. I like to try to keep them vertical. It's fine if you do a slant. The issue is that they all need to be slanted and they all need to be the same, because if one's like that and one's like that, it doesn't look good again. I find going vertical is the easiest. You know, you're going along, go straight south, go straight north, and then do the other things with that. Other things that I would point out, it's like when we're learning to write, we have those ruled papers. We're taught, capitals go full height and lowercase are always on the bottom. What I would recommend instead is thinking more centering everything. The reason I like that is this leaves this big empty space on there, and this really fills that hole, frames it up a little bit nicer. So we have a happy birthday just to the other side of the H. Don't forget to dot your I and cross your T. And Absar, A-B-S-A-A-R. Always ask. Always ask. Then, I'm serious. There are names, you've seen people's names. People, John. Oh, sure, John. Maybe it's J-E-A-M. You never know. And if you ask, it's somebody else's fault. It's the waiter's fault. It's Maitre D's fault. It's the reservationist's fault. It's the whoever. It's not your fault. So ask and have them spell it out to you. I'm lost. I don't even know where I'm going with that. A few things I would say is I'm happy with the lines I got. They're all consistent on there. Letter size is pretty consistent on there. I'm pretty good balance left to right, but I didn't go so much on there. The A I'm still a little off on. It worked out all right, but I think we could, if we did it again, we'd get a little bit nicer one on there. But other than that, I'm fairly satisfied. All right. So once again, border around the outside, 12 boxes. Happy birthday, Absar. We're doing that every day. So don't change it. Don't decide you want to give somebody else a birthday cake. I'm the customer, and this is whose birthday it is. All right? So, for our cones, once again. Long side is in my left hand. My thumb is opposite the point. Broken corner at the top. Curl it over with my right hand until I get a point. Then I just pull it down. Just follows right down. Pinch it gently. Go and grab both layers. Take your thumb off the end because it won't turn otherwise. You keep it right up there. Twist it over. Pinch it gently. Twist it over. When these are done, thumbs on the inside, fingers on the outside, back and forth until you feel it tighten up. And we fold the tails. I'm going to hand out triangles here, and I need to cut some more. So if you don't get one, don't worry. There will be one coming around shortly.